We are very lucky to have with us live in the studios this morning Reverend Harriett Walden. Reverend Harriett Walden is founder and national director of Mothers for Police Accountability, founder and director of the Family Empowerment Institute, and founder and national director of the Silent War Campaign. Harriett, thank you very much for coming in and spending time again with us this morning.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
So last time you were on, we primarily talked about the Silent War Campaign. I was hoping this time we could talk more about your activism in general and talk about how you got involved being an activist here in Seattle.
All right. Well, I think that I've been an activist or a person who wanted to make the world better ever since I've been probably a teenager. But I got involved here in Seattle trying to save St. Mary's School. It was the first thing I did when we first moved here, and tried to keep the Archdiocese from closing it. It eventually closed. And then I was getting getting signatures for keeping a lady named Ora Franklin at Leschi Elementary School. That was when I first got here. And then after that, when I had my business, the Western Optical was the optical that made the state's eyeglasses with the medical coupon, and the state gave the contract to an out-of-state company, and I got signatures up, and Foley, the Speaker of the House, they passed a bill that said that in-state businesses would get the first opportunity at a contract for state funds. That was one of the big things that happened. And of course, Western Optical got the contract again. And then another company came up in Washington State, bought a small lab, optical lab, and underbid it, Western Optical, and then moved the business out of state. So worked on that piece. And then, of course, in 1990, I started Mothers for Police Accountability. It was called Mothers Against Police Harassment then, because that's what we were looking at. It was like all this harassment going on to young people. Worked on that and continuing to work on that. And probably, I think that, and then we worked on Weed and Seed, which was like, it was a demonstration grant that was the forerunner of the gentrification that's going on in Seattle. What it was a demonstration grant from the Justice Department to from HUD to weed out. It was DOJ and HUD to weed out so-called criminals and to seed in social service. But what it was the gentrification is always led by law enforcement on some ways. They are part of it. I don't know if they recognize in a lot of places that how they're being used. And so what happened in the central area is that when people would move in and buy houses, when Caucasians would move in, and the first thing they would do would call the police if they saw people congregating. And a lot of times they would purchase a house next to somebody who might have had 5 children and maybe 20 grandkids, and it was always people coming over. And so it was police was being called all the time, so it was a lot of harassment going on. And so what Weed and Seed was that it was a grant that was written that was $1 million, and $800,000 of the money was just going to go to the police department. And then only $200,000 or a smaller amount was going to go to so-called social service. So we thought that was a problem. You know, I mean, most of the money ought to have been going to social service. And so what we did was organize and stopped it in its track for a whole year. And then we were able to send the information about Weed and Seed to Los Angeles, to Michael Zinzan. He was a former Panther, and he's passed on now. But what Michael did was so remarkable. He sent it out to almost every city. And Las Vegas was able to rewrite the grant, and they rewrote it so that they brought kids on and taught them about construction work. Newark rewrote the grant. Los Angeles rewrote the grant. And so that it would be more social service and less police involvement. And the reason why we were against it is because they targeted the central area as a place to implement the grant. And it was always more drugs on the U District out on the Ave than it was in the central area, always. But you could not abate the property because the UW owned most of the property on the Ave. I mean, so you could not abate it. And if you go back in your mind from the mid 90s, early 90s to what was on the Ave compared to today, McDonald's is gone. I mean, all the businesses out there are gone because there was always more activity. But if you target an area to maybe to run people out, and gentrification is always about one class moving out. You move out one class and one race, and another class and race comes in, and so now, and so it was 9811, 98122, and 98102 that actually got gentrified. And with weed and seed, and so the most important thing that happened too is that the police learned how to organize around the opposition. And so they were able to go to all these other cities and to teach them how to organize around the opposition because it took them a whole year to learn how to organize around us. And then when they brought weed and seed on the South End, they got buy-in from churches and from businesses on the South End before they announced that they were bringing in weed and seed.
So you taught them a valuable lesson there.
Yes, we did. We really did. And we had so many people. I mean, it would be just standing room only around weed and seed. I mean, because it was somebody actually who worked in the city. I mean, it was somebody else who gave us the copy of it. And then the other thing about weed and seed is that the people who in one area would be charged with a little bit more crime. I mean, the charges would be charged differently. And then they brought in trigger lock, so that meant that somebody, and so the central area essentially was going to be the laws would be enforced a little bit harsher in that area than it would be anyplace else.
Why do you think weed and seed resonated so much with so many people in the city of Seattle at that time?
Oh, because it was a horrible name, weed and seed. So you're going to weed out some, meaning you're going to seed in others, and then a lot of the some of those social services that took the money. What they would do is that they would pretend like they were going to have black kids in the program. And then 6 months later, all the black kids would be kicked out the program, and then there would be white kids in the program. I mean, it really was terrible the way that it was implemented. That's how we saw it.
Can you touch on briefly the circumstances that caused you to create Mothers for Police Accountability? Because that kind of
Oh, well, yeah, it was August 1990. I mean, of course, all my kids are grown now, and I got grandkids. My oldest grandkid is 15 years old, so it's been a long time. It was August 5th. They were coming back from the Black Community Festival. About 2 blocks from the house, I lived at 29th and Jackson. Then the police put the lights on, and they turned the corner. The police got out. He said he was looking for drugs and guns. He never did search the car, and the two children got out of the car. One was my son, and then was another young boy. Actually, it was 3 people. And they went in their yard, and the police just kind of kept at them, and it was escalated to an event that 4 young people got arrested. They had no criminal records, had never been in trouble before, and they got tired of being jacked because in the central area at that time, young people were being jacked. They call it jacked, and then taken the position. And when you get jacked, it means you have to get on the ground and take the position, lay down on the ground. And a lot of time, guns was put to young people's head. The drugs came up from Los Angeles. I call them the dogs came up, and now we got homegrown puppies with the gangs and stuff. But everybody is not a gang member. And so it was the beginning of a criminalization of youth, and that's what has happened in America now, is that most people believe that black kids are criminals, which is not true. I mean, it's not true. All we hear is the bad news. And so at that time, it was no one standing up for black kids. There was no one standing up, and this is like somebody needed to do something. So I guess I was tapped since, they were my kids. And I was not at home that night. I always like to let people know, had I been at home, I would have went outside. I was not at home. And I didn't write a business plan to start Mothers, just like I was drafted to do this. And I'm still drafted.
And that night, 11 cars showed up.
11 cars. It was all the cars in the East Precinct sector. And we're so unfortunate here that nobody got killed. I mean, it did not escalate to that piece. They did get roughed up. I can't say they were Rodney King guys, but they did get roughed up and that kind of stuff. So after that, I called my friends, my neighbors, my friends, and we started Mothers.
And primarily Mothers, what's its function been? Have you had a lot of interaction with the police and trying to change policy? Or?
Oh, well, yes. We've had a lot of interaction. The first thing we did, the first year that we had Mothers, we invited the police to every meeting. And we asked them for information. And then if you got the information from them, you can believe that it's true, number one. And then we can't say we're making it up. And so we would, and after that, we would tell people about what the meeting was. We put on the back of our pamphlet the police code of ethics, because we believed if they were reading that every day, you'd have a different police force. And then we found out about different kinds of policies, because one time I observed them asking a young person to take their hat off and turn it backwards, and then they took pictures. And then we invited the police, the former, I think he's retired now, legal person that worked for the police department, and he said that it was not policy, but it was practice. And so, so we were able to get at some of those. And then later on, we were able to work on the less than lethal options after David Walker got killed. And actually also with Border Guard Mitchell, he was an elderly man, because we believe that the police should have better tactics and better training to deal with people who are having a mentally ill crisis. We think that's really important. We were the people who brought that forth. And now they have the crisis intervention, the CIT training, and those are police officers who are trained to be able to work with people who are having a mentally ill crisis. And with the less than lethal options, we were at that table when it was made a decision that the police would be able to use tasers, but in some cases the tasers have been misused. I mean, a person with handcuffs on should never be tased. The pregnant woman got tased. I think that went to the Ninth Circuit. And I think the Ninth Circuit agreed with the police on that. I'm not sure what that ruling was. But the CIT training, it's a lot of mentally ill people in Seattle. It's a lot of people on the edge of time. It really is. And so we're really against suicide by cop. And it's been a lot of times, not only here, but in other places where people are just so disheartened with life, and that they've chosen to get some kind of interaction going on, and a lot of times they've been killed. And so we want humane treatment for people who are having a mental ill crisis, because any one of us could go home and our house is on fire. You're having a mental ill crisis, you go home and so it's many ways that you can have a mental ill crisis, and we believe that you should have humane treatment and to be able to get to the hospital and get up to Harborview for an evaluation. And you should not lose your life because you're having a mental ill crisis.
So you've been obviously working on police accountability issues for many years. Yes. Were you surprised by the recent intervention by the Department of Justice?
Well, we were pleasantly surprised, and we were hopeful when we signed on with the ACLU letter. We knew that there are some situations in Seattle, and we thought that they would be really good for the Department of Justice if they could investigate. And of course, they did come back with a finding of a lot of different problems with the Seattle Police Department, escalating events around traffic stops and those kinds of things. And so we were really, really pleased that the Justice Department found that Seattle actually needs a dissent decree. It needs to be monitored, because Seattle is a place where over the years it's always takes the least amount of a change. It's a place where if the options are there, they're going to do the least amount. And so over the years, watching them come up with changes that doesn't last, or never really get implemented, then we believe that the DOJ made the right decision.
And what's your opinion on the city's response and Mayor Mike McGinn's 2020 plan?
Well, we have been working there with we had been working with the task force. I'm on the Police Accountability Task Force that's sponsored by MEDC. And the 2020 plan lacks enforcement. I mean, it's like just a skeleton outline, and it needs help. And we were around working with the police department on that. But then when the city attorney came, was fighting the Manetti case that they just recently settled, that said that the police officer that talked about the Mexican, kicking the Mexican piss out of somebody, that was just language used to control, which was racial language. And so we just said, wow, they're not getting the message that they really do need to change. So we disengaged right now until they can really show us that they really want to put some enforcement behind the 2020.
It seems like the city has pulled back as well, where it's in a recent letter that Mike McGinn's attorney sent to the Justice Department that says, well, hey, maybe you need to bring in a mediator.
They have a mediator. Yeah. So it's in mediation now, so that's a little bit secret. But what we've been asking all the time is for us to be involved. I mean, because it's a city. I mean, historically, it's the city, it's the mayor and the DOJ. That's how it's done, except for Cincinnati when the people sued to be involved, because that was the reason why the Justice Department came to Cincinnati, because it was having such bad problems. And so our situation is a little bit different here, but we still need to be involved in it to make sure that at the end of the day, we have a police force here that's a little bit more humane, that's working for all of the people, and realize that really that they work for us. And so we're really hoping that that we can have some input. We have recommendations that the task force came up with, about 91 recommendations, and then Mothers sent in our own recommendation about the OPA advisory and that kind of thing, and that it needs to change. I mean, it's not really an answer to the problem, because again, Seattle always chooses the least model of oversight. And so it's convoluting. You have the OPA office, then you have the auditor's position, then you have the OPA, other part of OPA advisory board out there also. And so we believe that the auditor's position was always the strongest position. And if the auditor's position had full funding and subpoena power and all the staff that it needs, we felt that that would be probably the best oversight, would be the auditor's position.
And do you see implementing any changes within the Seattle's negotiating process with the police guild? Because it seems like the police guild's pretty strong. Well,
it's pretty strong, and the mayor had kind of taken them on. So, and also the city attorney, because that's what a lot of this conflict has been going on. But I believe that eventually the police guild will realize that for a better Seattle, Cincinnati did it. All the other cities, police guilds had come. It's for the good. It's for the good of the city, and for better relations going forward. And so I believe that Rich O'Neill and the police guild is going to come to some real good resolution around the DOJ, and really embrace it. And I mean, it's all about being better. I mean, that's what, and that's what's supposed to make America great. It's about being better. I mean, we're not satisfied with yesterday's laurels, right? It's all about being better. So I believe if they could see themselves as actually being a better police force, I think that some of the changes and things that they would be willing to work on and to embrace.
All right. Another issue that you worked with for a while was the Branch Villa Nursing Home. Can you talk about that?
Oh, well, Branch Villa Nursing Home was probably one of the sweetest things I ever worked on. I'm retired now, but I did own Eye Care Service, actually Greater Good Enterprise, doing business as Eye Care Service. And Branch Phillip was one of the first nursing homes that I picked up. I was a licensed optician, and I delivered eyeglasses. And I had a business that I provided eyeglass maintenance. I maintained eyeglasses for people who could not maintain them for themselves. And, for a person who've had a stroke, sometimes they can't do this, or the eyeglasses are down, they need to be pushed up, and hurting behind the ears, hurting on the nose. And so I took care of that. And also, I had a relationship with a few doctors, and so I would deliver new eyeglasses, repair eyeglasses, and I maintain eyeglasses. And so I happened to have been in the building that day when state came in to close them down. And the residents came up to me crying and said, they're going to close our home down. And so what I did is that I called a few people in the community, Iterai and a few people, and we organized to save the nursing home. It was a long, hard fight. We went to Olympia a lot. And we, as the community, the Friends of Branch Phillip, we had no standing because we had no residents in the nursing home. And so in order to prevail, we needed to have standing. And it was two people that was part of our group that both friends had mothers there. And so they signed on the lawsuit to get a stay to keep the nursing home open. And in the meantime, what they were trying to do was to empty out the nursing home. And so one day when they came to move people, somehow the key disappeared. And so the guy sat there all day and he couldn't move anybody because nobody knew where the key was. He had got out of the van. And so he was pretty frustrated. And 9 of the people that they transferred out of there died because they had transfer trauma. See, if you're living someplace for a long, long time and you've been there and you have known no other home for a while, it's called transfer trauma, and it happens frequently with elderly people when they uprooted and go to unfamiliar territory, and so a different environment is what I should say. And so it took us a while. We went to Olympia a lot. We kept organizing, we won the first stay and to make sure that they couldn't remove the people out, and then they were going to take us back to court again for a permanent to remove the stay to empty out the nursing home. We won that one too, because the Jimi Hendrix people came to help us, not his brother, because his brother, Jimi Hendrix's brother, lived right up the street from Branch Phillip when he was a little boy, and so he knew about it. And the reason why we were trying to save Branch Phillip, it was the only nursing home for 30 years. 30 years ago, it was the only nursing home that Black people could go to. And so we really, it had been like an institution in the Black community. And so we just worked really hard. It was a real good coalition. Nat Jackson and Chris Bennett was the co-chairs, and we had former Representative Don Mason. And the wonderful thing about Branch Phillip is that Maria Cantwell office sent somebody in the beginning. She was with us all the way. She was in the building. She had people in the building when the feds came in to re-inspect the building to make sure that things went smooth. She just was really instrumental in helping us the whole time. I mean, it was just uncanny how she was with us the whole time. And now a lot of the other politicians didn't come about until the end of it. But we were really successful in sometimes the elderly people would come up to us and they'd call us their Moses, because we were there to save them. And it was the only nursing home in America that's still open today when the state decided to close it. So it was an incredible fight to keep it open. We had some moles working with us, and people would go and tell DSHS everything that we would say. I mean, Mr. James Kelly, that he used to be at the Urban League. People would go and say, we would have a private meeting, and then people down at DSHS would know what we were doing because somebody would go tell. We figured out that piece, and we had to move our meetings and But we just really was determined. And Mr. Branch really was a decent man. He gave lots and lots of people employment, and it was a culturally relevant place for Black people. And that's what we needed. We need a place sometimes for Black people to be happy at, and they were happy there.
And tangential, we only got 3 minutes left. Tangential to that, there appears to have been some fallout from your work there. Talk about that real briefly.
Well, yeah. As a result of that, there was a couple audits, and so they decided that I didn't keep proper records, and I'm just an optician. So I kept records the way that I thought it should be, but the department said I didn't keep proper records. So they dinged me for overpayment, they said, and so they dinged me a certain amount of money for an overpayment for not keeping proper records. And on the end, there was an investigation, but the Attorney General said that it was nothing founded there. It was nothing founded for them to, so all the investigation was ended because it was not substantiated. So we moved on, and now we're out there just really doing all this good work and continuing to do the work. We got this our new bookmark that says "Our Blackness is Not a Crime," and that's for Mothers for Police Accountability. We're working on that. And all right, Tyrone Love. I can't ever talk publicly without talking about Tyrone Love and a lot of the unsolved murders in our community. It is not okay for us to have murderers walking around in our community, and we just know if we keep talking about Tyrone, and it's not only Tyrone. There's a whole series of a whole list of people actually who have been killed in our community, and I just like to say that I bring a lot of passion with what I do. I come with the highest integrity, and I want to always be on the right side of history. I always want to be that my work and the work that God allows me to do, that I've made life better for people. That's what my goal is, and to have a humane police department that works and serves all people.
We're speaking with Reverend Harriett Walden. She is the Director of Mothers for Police Accountability and founder and national director of the Silent War Campaign. Harriett, how can people find out more about your organizations?
Well, Mothers have a website, and it's email is Mothers for Police Accountability at yahoo.com. And the Silent War is the Silent War org. We have a website there for the Silent War, and they can download posters. It says "Stop the Violence" from that website, and also we're on Facebook. The Silent War is on Facebook. The Mothers for Police Accountability is on Facebook. The Family Empowerment Institute is on Facebook because we're having a Better Day conference there, so you can find us on Facebook. We post every night. It's now 10 o'clock at night. Do you know where your kids are? We do it at 10 and 11, and I tweet that also.
All right. Well, with that, we are unfortunately out of time. I want to thank you very much for coming and spending time with us this morning.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Happy summer.